I walked into my ex-husband's wedding with my head held high. They'd deliberately placed my name card at the back corner, a final insult. But when I arrived in a Bentley, wearing diamonds worth more than his new bride's entire wedding, their smug smiles vanished. This is how karma found me. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who promised to love you, this story is for you. Stay until the end because the revenge is absolutely satisfying. Hit subscribe, you won't regret it. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. I met Brandon at a charity event 3 years ago. He was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, successful, confident. He owned a chain of luxury car dealerships and moved through life like he owned every room he entered. When he pursued me, I felt chosen. Special. He sent flowers to my office every day for 2 weeks. He took me to the finest restaurants. He made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. Looking back now, I realize that was his talent, making you feel seen until you were no longer useful. We married 6 months later. It was a love marriage, against the subtle disapproval of his family. His mother, Margaret, barely smiled during the ceremony. His sister, Patricia, made comments about my simple background throughout the reception. His father, Gregory, didn't even toast to our happiness. But I was so in love with Brandon that I convinced myself they'd warm up to me eventually. I was wrong about so many things. The first month was paradise. Brandon was attentive, loving, everything a newlywed husband should be. But by the second month, he started coming home late. No explanations, just vague mentions of business meetings. By the third month, his mother moved into our guest house. She said it was temporary. It wasn't. That's when my real nightmare began. Margaret criticized everything I did. My cooking was too bland. My cleaning wasn't thorough enough. My clothes were inappropriate for a woman of Brandon's status. I tried harder. I enrolled in cooking classes. I hired organizers to help me maintain the house perfectly. I bought expensive clothes I couldn't really afford. Nothing was ever good enough. And Brandon? He said nothing, never defended me, never told his mother to back off. He just watched as she slowly dismantled my confidence piece by piece. Patricia visited daily. She took photos of me doing housework and posted them online with captions like, "Cinderella works hard for her prince." She mocked my education, my job before marriage, my family. The comments from their wealthy friends were cruel. I became a joke in their social circle. When I begged Brandon to make her stop, he told me I was being too sensitive, that I needed to develop thicker skin if I wanted to be part of his world. 6 months into our marriage, everything changed. Brandon came home drunk one night and started yelling at me for embarrassing him at a business dinner. I had asked a colleague's wife about her children. Apparently she was struggling with infertility, and I'd unknowingly touched a sensitive topic. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises, dark purple marks that I had to cover with long sleeves in summer. When I cried, he told me I'd made him do it, that if I wasn't so stupid, he wouldn't have to correct me. The abuse became regular. He'd push me against walls, throw things near my head, call me worthless, stupid, a burden he regretted taking on. His family knew. They had to know. Margaret walked in once when he was screaming at me, saw the fear in my eyes, and simply turned around and left. Patricia once saw a bruise on my neck and laughed, saying I probably walked into a door because I was so clumsy. Then I found the messages. Christine, his colleague at the dealership, beautiful, confident, from a wealthy family that made even Brandon's family seem middle class. The texts were explicit. They'd been having an affair for months. When I confronted him with shaking hands and tears streaming down my face, he slapped me. It was the first time he'd hit my face. I tasted blood. My lip was split. And all he said was, "You made me do this. Stop going through my phone." I wanted to leave. God, I wanted to run. But I had nowhere to go. I'd quit my job when we married because Brandon said his wife shouldn't work. I'd lost touch with friends because he said they were jealous of our lifestyle. My family lived in another state, and I was too ashamed to tell them the truth. I was trapped in a golden cage with a monster. The final betrayal came on a Tuesday afternoon. I came home early from a doctor's appointment. I'd been having panic attacks and needed medication. I walked into our living room to find Brandon, Christine, Margaret, Patricia, and Gregory all sitting together. There were wedding magazines on the coffee table, engagement rings in a jewelry box. They were planning Brandon's engagement to Christine while he was still married to me. Patricia saw me first. She didn't even look surprised. "Oh, you're here. We were just discussing Brandon's real future." The words hit me like physical blows. Margaret smiled, actually smiled, and said, "Christine will make a proper wife for our son." Brandon didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He stood up, walked to the desk, and came back with papers. Divorce papers. He threw them at my feet like I was garbage. "Sign them," he said coldly. "We're done." Gregory leaned forward with that same cruel smile his son had perfected. "You'll get nothing. We have excellent lawyers. That prenup you signed protects our family assets." I remembered that prenup. Brandon had presented it 2 days before our wedding, saying it was just a formality, that it was romantic because it proved I loved him for him, not his money. I'd signed it without reading it carefully, trusting the man who claimed to love me. Christine looked at me with such smugness. "Some women just can't keep a man," she said, examining her manicured nails. I felt something break inside me that wasn't my heart, that had broken months ago. It was my fear. I was suddenly more angry than scared. That night, Brandon got violent again when I refused to sign immediately. He wanted me gone, and I was being difficult by asking for time to get a lawyer. I locked myself in the bathroom and called the only person I could think of, Jake, a friend from college I hadn't spoken to in years. He answered on the second ring. I don't remember what I said, but I remember him saying, "Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you." But I couldn't wait. I was too afraid of what Brandon would do. I climbed out the bathroom window, took only my documents and a few clothes, and ran. I went to a hotel using the one credit card that was in my name. The next morning, I went to court alone. I filed for divorce citing abuse. I had photos of bruises on my phone. I had hospital records from when he'd pushed me down the stairs and I'd told the doctor I'd tripped. I had everything I needed to prove what he'd done. Brandon's lawyers were vicious. They painted me as a gold digger, an unstable woman making false accusations to get money. The judge saw through some of it, but the prenup held. I walked away from that marriage with $3,000, my clothes and scars that weren't all visible. I left the city the same day the divorce was finalized. I couldn't breathe in that place anymore. I moved to a smaller city 3 hours away where nobody knew my name or my story. I rented a tiny apartment that smelled like old carpet and had water stains on the ceiling. It was the most beautiful place I'd ever lived because it was mine. Safe. Free. But freedom doesn't pay rent. I needed a job, and my business degree felt useless. I'd been out of work for over a year. No recent experience, no references I could use without explaining why I'd left. After 2 weeks of rejection, I finally got hired as a waitress at a hotel restaurant, the Grand Sterling Hotel. It was upscale, which meant good tips but demanding customers. My feet ached every night. I'd go home and cry from exhaustion and humiliation, but I was surviving. That's what I told myself every morning. "You're surviving, Valeria. That's enough for now." 3 months into the job, on a busy Friday night, I was serving table 12 when I heard a familiar voice. "Valeria? Is that really you?" I turned around and felt my world tilt. Adrian, my best friend from college. The quiet, brilliant guy who'd always been there with notes when I missed class, coffee when I was stressed, and encouragement when I doubted myself. We'd lost touch after graduation when he moved to start his tech company, and I'd gotten swept up in my relationship with Brandon. He didn't look that different, still had kind eyes and that gentle smile, but everything else had changed. The expensive suit, the confident posture, the watch that probably cost more than my car used to be worth. I tried to smile and take his order like he was any other customer, but my hands were shaking. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Adrian always noticed everything. He waited until my shift ended at 11. He was sitting in the lobby, working on his laptop. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Please?" We went to a 24-hour diner down the street. I ordered coffee I didn't drink. He ordered pie he didn't eat. And then he asked the question I'd been dreading. "What happened to you, Valeria? Last I heard you'd married some successful businessman and were living the dream." I broke. Right there in that diner booth, I told him everything. The abuse, the affair, the cruel family, the divorce, the escape. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe properly. And Adrian sat there, listening to every word, his jaw getting tighter and tighter until I could see the muscle twitching. When I finally finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm going to help you. And before you say no, let me explain." That's when I learned the truth about Adrian. His tech company hadn't just succeeded, it had exploded. He'd developed software for hotel management systems that was now used internationally. He was worth billions. Billions. The quiet boy who used to share his sandwich with me because I'd spent my lunch money on textbooks was now one of the most successful entrepreneurs under 40. And he'd never married, never even had a serious relationship. "I was always too busy," he said, not meeting my eyes, "and maybe waiting for the right person." He offered me a job the next morning, head of hospitality consulting for his company. It wasn't charity, he insisted. He needed someone who understood both the business side and the customer service side of hotels. Someone he could trust. I refused at first. My pride was one of the few things I had left, but Adrian was persistent. "Let me help you rebuild," he said. "You deserve so much better than serving people who don't even see you." I started working for Adrian's company a week later. The job was challenging but fulfilling. I was good at it, better than I'd expected. Adrian was supportive but professional, though I caught him watching me sometimes with an expression I couldn't quite read. We had regular meetings that turned into long lunches, business dinners that felt almost like dates, late-night strategy sessions where we'd talk about everything except work. Slowly, I started feeling like myself again, the Valeria who laughed easily, who had opinions and ideas, who wasn't afraid of making mistakes. 3 months into my new life, I got the mail delivery at the office, an expensive cream envelope with elegant calligraphy, Brandon and Christine's wedding invitation. My hands went numb. I opened it with shaking fingers. The invitation was pretentious, gold lettering, embossed flowers, a weekend-long celebration at the most exclusive hotel in my old city. But it was the note inside that made my vision blur. Christine's handwriting. "Hope you can make it. We'd love for you to see how happy we are." There was a seating card. Table 47. I didn't know the venue, but I knew what that meant. The back corner, near the kitchen doors and the bathrooms. The table they put people they had to invite but didn't actually want there. It was deliberate, calculated. One final humiliation. I had a panic attack right there in my office. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. The room spun. I heard Adrian's voice from far away, felt his hands on my shoulders, guiding me to sit down. He got me water, talked me through breathing exercises, and when I could finally speak, I showed him the invitation. His face went completely still, that calm, dangerous still that meant he was furious. "They want to humiliate you," he said quietly. "They're not done hurting you." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I won't go," I whispered. "I won't give them the satisfaction." Adrian was quiet for a moment, studying the invitation like it was a battle plan. Then he looked at me with an intensity I'd never seen before. "What if you did go, but not as broken Valeria, as someone they can't touch anymore?" That evening, Adrian took me to dinner at the most exclusive restaurant in the city. He was nervous, I realized. Adrian, who commanded boardrooms full of executives, was nervous. "I have an idea," he said. "It's crazy, but hear me out." He took a deep breath. "Go to that wedding, but go as my wife." I stared at him. "What?" "Adrian, that's—" He held up his hand. "We'll pretend, just for the wedding. Let me help you show them that you're not just surviving, you're thriving, you're loved, you're valued." His voice dropped softer. "And maybe it doesn't have to be completely pretend, at least not for me." The confession hung between us. I saw the truth in his eyes. He'd been in love with me, possibly for years. "I've loved you since college," he admitted. "I was just too scared to say anything. Too afraid of ruining our friendship. When you married Brandon, I told myself to move on, but when I saw you again, everything came back, stronger than before." My heart was racing. This kind, brilliant, wonderful man was offering me not just revenge, but something real, something genuine. I reached across the table and took his hand. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it. Let's show them that they didn't break me. They just freed me to find something real." The next week was a whirlwind. Adrian insisted on the best of everything. We went shopping at stores I'd only ever walked past. He bought me a dress that made me feel like royalty, deep red silk that hugged every curve, not revealing but powerful, confident. He gave me jewelry that took my breath away, diamond earrings and a necklace that belonged to his grandmother. "She was the strongest woman I ever knew," he said as he clasped it around my neck. "She'd want you to have these. She'd love you." We rehearsed our story, how we'd reconnected, how friendship had turned to love, how we'd married quietly, just the two of us because we didn't need anyone's approval. The more we practiced, the more real it felt. Adrian would take my hand and I'd feel electricity. He'd look at me like I was precious, and I'd forget we were pretending. One night, after a particularly long rehearsal, he kissed me, soft and gentle and full of promise. "Sorry," he whispered. "I couldn't help myself." I kissed him back. "Don't be sorry." The morning of Brandon's wedding, I woke up terrified. Adrian picked me up in his Bentley, sleek, silver, impossible to miss. He looked incredible in his custom suit, but more than that, he looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. "You ready?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "With you?" "Yes." The venue was the Grand Plaza Hotel, the most exclusive in the city. Coincidentally, one of the hotels that used Adrian's software. The valet's eyes went wide when we pulled up. He practically ran to open my door. I stepped out and I felt the shift. People stared, whispered. I saw Margaret first. She was greeting guests near the entrance. The glass of champagne in her hand nearly slipped. Her face went pale, then red. Patricia was next to her. Her jaw literally dropped. Then Brandon turned around. He was in his tuxedo, playing the perfect groom, and he froze completely. His eyes locked on mine, traveled down to the dress, the diamonds, then to Adrian beside me. I watched the color drain from his face. Christine appeared in her wedding dress, beautiful, expensive, perfect, until she saw me. "What is she doing here?" she hissed loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Brandon couldn't even answer her. An usher approached nervously. "Welcome. May I see your seating cards?" Adrian handed them over with a polite smile. The usher checked his tablet. "Ah, yes, table 47. Right this way, please." He started leading us toward the back. I felt the old fear rising, but Adrian's hand on my back was steady. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "I think there's been a mistake." The hotel manager appeared. I recognized him from industry events. His eyes widened. "Mr. Adrian? I didn't know you were attending." He was practically bowing. Adrian smiled. "Yes, this is something of a surprise. My wife and I were invited." He emphasized the word wife. I watched the manager's eyes flick to me, then to the seating chart, then back to Adrian in confusion. "Your wife?" Margaret had pushed through the crowd. "This is ridiculous. She's not—" Adrian cut her off with a look that could freeze fire. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" His tone was polite ice. "I'm the groom's mother and that woman is—" "My wife," Adrian repeated. "Valeria, and I'd appreciate if you'd speak to her with respect." The hotel manager was sweating. "Mr. Adrian, please, we have the VIP table reserved for our partners, right at the front. Please, allow me to—" "That won't be necessary," Christine shrieked, pushing past her new mother-in-law. "She sits where we assigned her!" The manager looked like he wanted to disappear. Adrian's voice remained calm. "I think there's confusion. Perhaps we should just leave." "No!" The manager's panic was obvious. Adrian's company was one of their biggest contracts. Please, Mr. Adrian. The VIP table. I insist. This way. He personally escorted us to a table front and center. Impossible to ignore. The finest linens. The best view. Directly in Brandon's line of sight. Gregory appeared, red-faced. Now see here. Adrian finally let some steel show. I'm Adrian Whitmore, Whitmore International. Perhaps you've heard of it? Recognition and horror dawned on Gregory's face. Everyone in the business world knew Whitmore International. My wife was treated poorly by your family. I'm here to ensure that doesn't happen again. The threat was subtle but clear. We sat down to absolute chaos around us. Guests were whispering furiously. People were Googling Adrian's name on their phones. Business associates of Brandon's were trying to catch Adrian's eye. Christine was crying angry tears. Margaret looked like she might faint. Patricia was frantically texting. And Brandon couldn't stop staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. The ceremony started, but it was a disaster. Christine kept glancing back at me, distracted and furious. Brandon stumbled over his vows, forgot lines, had to be prompted by the officiant. When he was supposed to be looking at his bride, his eyes kept drifting to where Adrian was holding my hand. The kiss was awkward and forced. People shifted uncomfortably. This didn't look like true love. It looked like a business transaction gone wrong. At the reception, everything fell apart for them. Guests lined up at our table. Business associates ignored the bride and groom to talk to Adrian about investments, partnerships, opportunities. I watched Brandon standing alone at his own wedding while people courted his ex-wife's new husband. The irony was delicious. Brandon finally approached when Adrian went to get us drinks. He looked awful, pale, sweaty, desperate. "Valeria, can we talk?" I looked at him coolly. "I don't think your wife would appreciate that." "Please," he said. You look incredible. I heard you're doing well. I didn't know you were with someone like him." "Someone like him?" I kept my voice level. "You mean someone who values me? Someone who's never raised a hand to me? Someone whose family doesn't torture me for fun?" Brandon flinched. "I made mistakes. I was under pressure from my family, from Christine. You hit me, Brandon. You made me feel worthless. You threw me away like I was nothing." His eyes were wet. "I know. God, Valeria, I know. I made a terrible mistake. When I see you now, I realize what I lost." Christine appeared like a jealous ghost. "Brandon, what are you doing?" She grabbed his arm possessively, glared at me with pure hatred. "Shouldn't you be at your assigned table?" I smiled sweetly. "I am at my assigned table. My husband arranged it." Margaret cornered me near the bathroom. Patricia flanked her like they were going to intimidate me one more time. "How much did you pay him to pretend to be your husband?" Margaret demanded. "Women like you always find a way to trap rich men." Patricia nodded. "Once a gold digger, always a gold digger. Does he know what you really are?" Adrian's voice cut through their venom like a knife. "What did you just call my wife?" He appeared beside me, and the fury in his usually gentle eyes made both women step back. "This is a family matter," Margaret tried. "You don't understand." "Family?" Adrian's laugh was harsh. "You abused her. You enabled your son to beat her. You destroyed her confidence and threw her away. You're not family. You're monsters." A crowd had gathered, drawn by the raised voices. Patricia's face went red. "That's a lie! She's making things up for attention!" I felt something click into place. The fear I'd carried for so long evaporated. "Am I?" I asked quietly, then louder. "Am I making it up, Patricia?" I walked toward the stage. The best man had just finished his toast. I took the microphone before anyone could stop me. The room went silent. Christine stood up. "Absolutely not. This is my wedding." Adrian was beside me instantly. "Let her speak," he said to the room. His voice carried authority that even the bride couldn't override. "I want to congratulate the happy couple," I began. Polite, uncertain applause. "Brandon and I were married once. You all know that. What you don't know is why our marriage ended." Brandon stood, his face white. "Valeria, don't do this." 6 months. That's how long it took for him to show who he really was. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the display screen. He hit me, not once, multiple times. I have the hospital records, police reports, photos. The images appeared on the screen behind me, bruises on my arms, a split lip, my swollen eye, documentation with dates, all during my marriage. The gasps from the crowd were audible. People pulled out their phones, taking pictures of the evidence. His mother knew, I continued. Margaret made a choking sound. She walked in on his violence and did nothing. His sister posted humiliating photos of me online. Patricia's Instagram handle appeared on the screen, posts mocking me, calling me pathetic, laughing at my pain. His father threatened me with lawyers to ensure I left with nothing. "This is slander," Gregory shouted. "We'll sue." I smiled coldly. "Please do. I'd love to present all of this evidence in court, including the messages between Margaret and Christine planning how to get rid of me so Christine could take my place." The screenshot appeared. Text messages between Margaret and Christine, dated during my marriage, discussing Brandon's affair and how to remove the obstacle. The room erupted. Guests were standing, talking loudly, looking at the family with disgust. Business associates were leaving their tables, heading for the exits. Christine was screaming at Brandon to do something, but Brandon just stood there, looking at the photos of what he'd done to me, unable to deny any of it. I walked directly to him. The room held its breath. "You wanted to humiliate me today. You put me in the back corner, hoping I'd slink in and out, reminded of my place." I was right in front of him now. "But I don't need revenge, Brandon. The truth is enough." I turned to Christine. "You didn't win anything. You inherited my nightmare. When you stop being perfect, when you make him angry, when his family decides you're not good enough, you'll understand what I survived." Then I slapped him, hard. The sound echoed through the silent room. "That's for every bruise, every insult, every time you made me feel worthless." Security started moving, but Adrian held up a hand. The hotel manager, watching everything, signaled them to stop. "Let her finish," he said quietly. Adrian took the microphone. "I've known Valeria since college. Brilliant, kind, genuine. When I found her again, broken by this family, working as a waitress to survive, I wanted to destroy you all." His eyes swept the family. "But Valeria taught me something better. She taught me that the truth is more powerful than revenge." He turned to me, and his voice softened. "We came here today pretending to be married, a plan to show them you'd moved on. But standing here now, I don't want to pretend anymore." He got down on one knee. The crowd gasped. He pulled out a ring box. This wasn't part of any plan. "Valeria, I've loved you since college. I let you go once because I was too scared to tell you. I won't make that mistake again. Will you marry me? For real this time. Not for revenge, not to prove anything, but because I love you with everything I am." I was crying, but this time they were good tears, happy tears. "Yes," I whispered, then louder, "Yes, I'll marry you." He stood, slipped the ring on my finger, and kissed me. Really kissed me. The kind of kiss that tells everyone watching that this is real love. The room erupted in applause, for us. Not for the bride and groom, for us. Christine was screaming, "This is my wedding, my day." But guests were already leaving, coming to congratulate us instead. Brandon's business associates were literally walking out, several stopping to shake Adrian's hand and pointedly ignoring the groom. Margaret was crying, her makeup running. Patricia was on her phone, probably seeing the social media explosion, hashtags about the abusive family already trending. We left hand in hand, walked out of that disaster to Adrian's Bentley. Behind us, I heard Christine's meltdown, Brandon's silence, the family's ruin. I didn't look back. "I can't believe you just proposed," I said once we were in the car. Adrian smiled, bringing my hand to his lips. "I can't believe you said yes. I love you, Valeria. I've always loved you." "I love you too," I said, and meant it completely. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." 6 months later, we married for real. Small ceremony, just close friends and people who actually loved us. No pretense, No games, just truth and love and the beginning of something beautiful. Brandon's business suffered after his abuse went public. Several partners dropped him. Christine filed for divorce within a year. Apparently, she discovered what I'd meant about inheriting my nightmare. The family's reputation never recovered. But that's not my story anymore. My story is the life I built with Adrian, the company we grew together, the happiness we found, the healing that came from being truly valued. They tried to bury me, but they didn't know I was a seed, and seeds always find a way to grow. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button. If you've ever been underestimated or abused and came back stronger, drop a comment. I want to hear your story. Subscribe because we're just getting started with stories of powerful revenge and redemption. Remember, your comeback will always be stronger than their setback. See you in the next one, and thank you for letting me share my truth.